Move on to responsibility and control. So legislative control, okay, we'll finish off that because we have come there. These are the legislative controls. Okay, so what are the legislative controls? This is something that is known to us. Okay, so from the president's speech to the no confidence motion vargu ella nove it is a legislative control only, right or not, over the executive, right? So questions or resolutions, what is this questions? Every question, star R, I mean start questions, unstart questions, okay, specific questions, all those questions are still like, you know, short notice questions. Okay, you have different types of questions. Okay, so all those are primarily the legislature being able to question the executive, or executive being able to question the legislature also sometimes. Okay, now it goes vice versa because both are in the same hands in a parliamentary democracy. Alva. Then resolutions. Okay, when are these resolutions passed? Resolutions are like motions. Alva, ivaga privilege motion, cut motion, all those are mainly to show some kind of disapproval with respect to some law or policy or act, right? Then 0-hour discussions. 0-hour discussions, we'll take a look at it. What is the 0-hour? 0-hour follows the question hour. Question hour, yeah. 1962 onwards, it has come into the position. Okay, na? So it is firstly, it will be your question hour. Okay, so every first hour can be for the questions. So before taking up the agenda, whatever they are talking in the meanwhile, no, that is nothing but your 0-hour. Okay, na? So 0-hour is like not mentioned in the agenda. Okay, so that follows the next agenda is nothing but, you know, taking up the actual business of the day. Okay, so adjournment motions, these are all little polity topics. Okay, so adjournment motions is nothing but you bring in some topic which is very important to be discussed and postpone what is happening now for a later date or for an indefinite period. Okay, sign day madave, it becomes for indefinite period. It is just adjournment, it is for a definite period. Okay, so we postpone the business that is happening now so that something very urgent is to be discussed at this point of time. Okay, na matter of public importance. Then censure motions. What is censuring? Committee on Public, all the committees that we are talking about. Okay, na? So now let's take a look at it. So legislative control over administration, president's speech. So every year, the actual parliamentary sessions begins with president's speech. Alva. So that has to be passed. Right? Motion of thanks pass madbeku. Illa andre what happens? The government will have to resign, right? So that is the significance of president's speech. So what do president talk here? He talks about whole agenda for the year, the business of the government in the upcoming year madtare. So president's speech is very, very important, and that is one of the legislative control. Okay, why do we call it as legislative control? If it is not passed, it leads to fall of government. That is why it's called as a legislative control. Okay, then budget discussion. We know the discussion and the discussion process. So first reading, second reading, final reading, and then it goes to the passing of the law, right? So those discussions are also one of the legislative control. Okay, see, it is not just on the delegated legislation. We are talking about the legislative control on the executive in total. Got it? Yes? Fine. Then comes the question hour. The first hour of every parliamentary day is reserved for questions. So that becomes your question hour. Okay. So polity every day there will be sessions. Okay, na? Andre meetings. So in that, the first hour of the day is nothing but the question hour. Okay, adadmele there is going to be a gap before they start off the actual business. What is their actual business? Yeah, bill in kate agide. Which minister has got to talk about another minister? What policies are being criticized, not criticized, appreciated? Appreciation is very less that we get to see. Alva. So shoe flunging, itarad cases is jasti notivi. So all those business will start after the 0-hour. Okay, 0-hour is nothing but that intermediate time between question hour and the business agenda. Got it? Yes. Then comes the 0-hour. I told you already. So this is one of the legislative control. Just write down the headings. You will keep it and polity matte repeat agate. Okay. So these are the legislative controls. See, actually the entire discussions are itself are losing its relevance. Okay. Na? So slowly we are moving towards that, you know, parliamentary, what do you call it as? Freeze. Okay, because you know the activities are not really impacting into the quality of the work that we have realized now. Okay, So we need a new revamp altogether, a major revamp in fact. I don't know when it will come, but it should come. Okay, so these instruments what we have, no adjournment, no confidence. See, no confidence, one thing that we strongly use every now and then, because it's the tool of opposition and other ministers, alva, to actually make the government listen to them, right? So what is this no confidence motion? So confidence motion is nothing but now every government which is ruling, it should prove its confidence whenever it is demanded to. Okay, the presiding officer of the house will ask or demand the party to prove its confidence, and then prove its majority on the floor. Okay, so when it is not able to prove its majority, it has to resign. Why? Because it holds majority only, it came to power. If it is not able to hold majority, it means people's opinion to keep you in power is failed. That means there should be re-election. Got it? Yes. Then comes adjournment debates. Adjournment debates are nothing but those that happen which we have discussed already. So we try to postpone the current business so that there is some matter of public importance is being discussed now. Okay, na? So that is also one of the legislative control. Then comes debates on legislation. So examples barkolidu. This is important. Our Hindu Code Bill and also the Banaras University's change of name are examples. That is, the various readings of a bill provide opportunities to the members of the parliament to criticize the entire policy underlying the bill. Okay, in every reading, what they do is they try to come up with new things. Okay, what is good about the bill, what is not good about the bill. Okay, so that's what happens actually in various readings. We have first reading, second reading, third reading. Yes or no? Yes. So why do we need those many readings? First reading goes for amendments, comes back again for second reading, does, and then goes for amendments and then comes back for third reading. So every reading is an opportunity to make amendments, changes, necessary changes. So the criticism may even make the government change its mind. So that means it can be incorporated. If the opposition criticizes and if the ruling party feels that, yeah, the changes can be incorporated, then it is reflected in the bill and the health. Okay, so example, withdrew the Hindu Code Bill, 1951 only. So 53 it was withdrew primarily because, it was questioning the patriarchal setup of India. Okay, so women were given equal footing at that point of time. So, and also it tried to unify all the Hindu personal laws, which became very critical. So the government had to withdraw it. Okay, so like that, 1968, government withdrew its earlier decision to change the name of Banaras Hindu University. Okay, na? So it is just two examples. Like we have a lot of examples, Atra, where the government was able to, or these debates on the acts were able to, like, in the budget readings, they were able to convince not just convince, it can be like, good opposition, where the government were not allowed to take it over. So it was withdrawn. Got it? Yes. Then moving ahead is parliamentary committees and audits. So we have a lot of committees which comes up with its findings of the report. That is also a legislative control, right or not? So if the committee says that, one of the committees, now let's assume that committee of public undertakings is coming up with a report, okay? So with one particular PSU, then that has to be taken into consideration, right? So committee will act as a control or a check over the legislations, right? So these are the examples of the committees. They are tools of controls over administrations, parliamentary committees like Public Accounts Committees, Estimates Committee, CPU, on subordinate legislation, insurances. We have a lot of other committees, okay? So all the committees are not important. Most important ones will be told in the polity classes, okay? See, idralli parliamentary committees mandu, they can even intervene in between the process also. Okay, so if the committee is asked for a report, now generally what happens is the presiding officer will be there. The ruling party will pass the bill. I mean, it will initiate the bill, and the discussions are happening. The opposition opposes it. Okay, so when the opposition opposes, what happens? There's a debate. Okay, so now let's assume that the presiding officer decides that there needs to be a detailed study. Okay, so committee ke refer ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Okay, so committee ke refer madmele they can come up with inputs. So now actually what are the positives and negatives anta clear agi namge kaansutte illi, right? So when it is clearly seen, that is a control over administration, right? So audit is by our CAG. Article 148 talks about our CAGI, right? Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Howda? What is it called in state? So it's a central body. It's a constitutional body exclusively existing for all the states and central PSUs, right? So what does he do? Parliament exercises control over public expenditure through Comptroller and Auditor General. Okay, na? So accountability of the government to Parliament in the field of finances is secured through reports of the CAG. So now government is taking over the scrutiny of parliamentary functions through CAG. Alva, who appoints CAG? Right? So government of India is appointing, right or not? So president is appointing. So which means the position is constitutional position. Alva. So now with his aid and advice, now we are going to get to know with his reports, not just aid and advice, with reports, we are also getting to know what is the nature of spending in the parliament. Okay, so now government can take control over it. Got it? That is nothing but government in the who? Legislations. Okay, so legislations takes control over the executive again through this forum as well. Got it? Yes. So clearly understood all the 9 measures or 9 tools through which the legislative control is established over administration. We'll relook into it. That is audit and parliamentary committees, debates on legislation, no confidence motion, adjournment debates, president speech, budget discussion, question hour, 0 hour. These are all the tools of legislative control over administration. Responsibility and accountability. I think this we have discussed already. See, control is nothing but authority. Okay. So this is also discussed, but we'll take a look at it. So the 3 concepts of authority, responsibility, and accountability are the integral parts of the process of administration. In fact, public administration. Okay. So they're talking about authority, responsibility, and accountability. So I told you responsibility is within, obligation to carry out certain duties. So this can be individualistic in nature, while accountability is to someone, you are responsible to someone outside. That is nothing but accountability. Okay. So it's the origination of administration to give a satisfactory account of their performance and the manner in which they have exercised the power conferred on them. Right? So now they are convincing the people that whatever power conferred on them was rightly used, and also they have performed according to the requirements of their position. That is nothing but accountability. Okay, now the responsibility is an individual's desire to perform in a specified way. That is nothing but responsibility. Okay, so when discipline comes from within, it is responsibility. When it is for an outside organ, it is accountability. So what is authority or control? It is the means, the power to influence people's behavior in the course of events. So with authority comes power, Allah. So whenever there is power, there can be control. So it is the ability to influence or, to restrict anta helbodu. Okay, to restrict whenever people can overarch their duties or powers. Okay, na? That is nothing but control. So it is to ensure the operation of organization in the prescribed lines or process.